Hey guys, this is Kevin again. As the title of the video suggests, this is a therapist in a Ford Fiesta driving around Boise. So I got some errands to run, so I decided to bring you guys along with me, make the video. Trying to make sure I do consistent uploads. It's tough, obviously, some days, you know, when I come home, I don't necessarily want to set up the video, and frankly I'm so sick of discussing mental health throughout the day that I just don't want to talk about it anymore. So anyhow, I decided to just start a kind of a random, maybe a random series, not necessarily a series, but just an occasional, you know, maybe Saturday morning, Sunday morning, just drive around town. So as I already mentioned, I'm driving around in Boise, which is an interesting place to say the least. Even 10 years ago, this was kind of off the map outside of Boise State football, which brought a lot of attention here. And now we are Boise and some of the surrounding towns, kind of called the Treasure Valley, is one of the fastest growing places in the country. Actually, it is the fastest growing place in the country, and Idaho is the fastest growing state. And they're not moving to northern Idaho. They're not moving anywhere else. A lot of people are moving here. You know, they cracked some numbers, and looks like, you know, the majority of people are coming from California and moving here, kind of being lured away by, especially at that time, and even still now for these folks, the affordable housing. There's more jobs than there are people. There's definitely a labor shortage. There's a lot of tech industry. There's lots of companies that call this place home for corporate. And so there's a lot of allure. It still has this small town vibe to it, even though it's kind of bursting with population. Obviously, it's nothing compared to, you know, some of your bigger Pacific Northwest cities and states. But for the size and just for the setup of Boise, to have just such a surging population, you can definitely feel it. You can feel it in traffic. You can feel it at events. You can feel it just when you're out. There's just more people, and obviously there's the real estate market is shot through the roof around here. So, which is you know, talking about social work, etc. Kind of looking at a macro level. It's one of those things where a lot of local residents, especially seniors on fixed incomes, have really felt the burden that maybe we're renting, because property values are just going through the absolute roof. You know, my home, for example, has probably shot up just $30,000 in the last 2 years alone. The last 5 years, about $50,000. So you have these folks that are on fixed incomes renting, have been here for years, probably at relatively the same rate, and now that's all starting to just really put the pressure on them. And so you're having maybe old time, or just folks that have grown up here looking to buy houses that are being kind of forced out of town, further away from town, which is still good living, but you're definitely seeing a lot more an increase in outsiders coming in. So you know, I love living here. I don't know really why I'm rambling on about Boise right now, but I am, and I'm just gonna roll with it because it's what I want to talk about. I've always loved living here. Like I said, it always has had this kind of a small town vibe. I went to school here. You know, all my friends are from here. Played a lot of sports together, grew up here, went to college here, went to Boise State. So it just kind of kept everything local. You know, we didn't really have this urge to get out of town and go somewhere else and try to experience the college life. We're at least somewhat kind of intelligent in that regard to save us some money. And so it's just, you know, it's just and then the reason, obviously the reason people love being here, we share the same feeling. You know, you have such quick access to so many outdoor activities: boating, snowboarding, fishing, hunting, hiking, camping, whole 9 yards, whatever you want to do. It's honestly an hour to an hour and a half drive, sometimes shorter if you just want to go hike and be away from everyone. It's about a 45-minute drive. You know, and then that being said, also the people here, Boise has a great reputation of just being friendly, supportive people. Obviously, you're going to have your bad apples in town, but I mean, it's just that, you know, a few winters ago, you know, as I video suggests, I'm sitting here driving around my little Ford Fiesta, which I look absolutely ridiculous in, by the way, a little bit bigger, athletic guy, and I'm driving a bright yellow, or like blaze yellow, blaze orange, I don't know what the color is called, Fiesta, and it just, I've gotten picked on by my friends for years, but it gets 40 miles a gallon, anyhow. So, but just the people, yeah, I was driving around a few winters ago, got totally stuck in the snow because I'm always overconfident and I think I can maybe drive where I can't, especially when it snows here. We get all 4 seasons. And people just come out of their homes, start pushing you out. Got me out, got me back on the road, so it was very, very helpful. And that's just consistently across the board. Wherever you're at, there's going to be helpful people. People are nice. I think the positive thing is you know, whether you're going to stores or whether you're just out in public, walking, people are just friendly. They're going to say hi. You might talk to them. You might strike up a conversation with them if you want to take the chance, and it's going to be a positive conversation. And I think, and I'm hoping that rubs off on all the people that are coming here, all these new influx of people. But there's just so many things that Boise has to offer that that a lot of places don't have, and it's kind of been this hidden gem. And a lot of it's been brought on by this place over here, Boise State. At least my opinion, just with the success of their football program and just being on ESPN constantly and always getting these glamour shots of around town in between timeouts and commercials and things like that, just has put a magnifying glass on this place. And Boise State's just blowing up as well. They've put so much money and time and invested so much into their campus in the last few years, even since I left there a few years ago. Just a whole new art building. Just all put up. Just there's growth everywhere around. This constant construction. You know, there's just so many great things I can't say enough about Boise. It's always been a wonderful place to live, and it still is. Luckily, we were able to purchase a home from a family member that passed away, and we were able to stay. So it's been really positive. It's been good. I like living here. And a few other topics. I'm kind of jumping around all over the place. So this past Wednesday, which was really interesting, my friends and I, we all decided to go golfing, which we don't normally do during the week. Obviously there was some alcohol involved. I may or may not have gotten a little too carried away. Anyhow, as I'm driving home with one of my friends, I surround myself with some really good people. We had an really interesting conversation. So he's actually a youth pastor at a local church. He's been doing that for years. He kind of heads up their teen program, and it's just interesting to kind of highlight the different perspectives of the community. Not that one perspective is right, 100% right or wrong. It's just interesting. So as I'm driving home, I'm starting to sober up. This is a few hours later. You know, he's asking a question. We're just talking about my job, what it's like, what I see, what I think about different things there. And because he works with a lot of teenagers that actually come through my hospital, so sometimes he visits there. And he was just curious about this. He's like, you know, some people in the church tell me that I just ran a red light. Oh God, there's a fender bender or some kind of a fight. What the hell is this? There's some ladies getting out of her car. That looks enjoyable. Oh, Saturday market. Another thing during the summer, they block off a whole bunch of downtown. And a bunch of people come down and sell a bunch of overpriced vegetables, but they're so good. And just so many other random things. And man, people driving are just struggling. So I took the wrong way, so I'm going to drive around some more, which I don't care. So anyhow, he was asking, asking me, some of the people in the church, they believe that all mental health issues, all the psychosis, schizophrenia, the bipolar, the lashing out, basically all that stuff. He's kind of summarizing all really, significantly extreme mental health forums, and telling me that a lot of people in the church kind of view that as demonic possession or demonic influence. In all seriousness, so really just kind of caught me off guard. And luckily, I was sober enough to maybe give a rational answer. I think he was kind of awestruck about that opinion from our local church, who's actually I've been going to for quite a while. But just like, how are you supposed to take that? How are you supposed to respond to that? It plays into this notion of your mental health is your fault. Maybe you did something to open yourself up to some really negative influences. I don't know where I'm going with this. That it's maybe not so much genetic. Maybe it's because you were smoking the devil's lettuce or something. I have no idea. So my answer back was, well, regardless of it's Lucifer coming in and messing with you, they're demonic. I wanted to be more sarcastic than I actually was, but I think I tried to keep it respectful, because I know I'm knowing that my friend, that this is he's just as taken back by this kind of stuff as I was. And I said, well, regardless, it's usually treatable with medication. Sometimes we can see someone who has just over the top kind of levels of psychosis, really just going over the top, just not able to determine what's reality, what's not. You're responding to lots of hallucinations, both auditory, visual, maybe tactile. Paranoid that people are chasing them, that the government is following them, that they have demons following them around in their room, that they come at night. I mean, just all I'm just thinking of a few of the things off the top of my head that we've seen symptoms coming through the door. So regardless if it's demonic or not, or the devil, or what have you, it's treatable with medication. So you see these folks who come in, maybe they're here for a little bit longer time, just due to the severity of everything, but they get stabilized. Not all of them, but a lot of them do. A lot of these people get stabilized. They get to the point where they're more reality-based. Maybe they're not so paranoid about things following them. They're not seeing all these hallucinations. They're not hearing the voices. So I just feel bad for folks that might be stuck in a situation where their family believes this is just this is an act of God, or maybe not an act of God per se. That wasn't the question. Maybe it's because these people weren't living kind of a sanctified or holy life, or sinning, what have you, and now they have this schizophrenia, kind of taken out of account all the family history, all the genetics, substance use related. It almost takes power away from the individual, and it takes power away from the family if it's something that maybe they had a 100% personal choice in. Sometimes it is substance use related, but it's definitely still treatable. I don't believe it is a demonic possession. I didn't say that. I just said it's treatable with medication. So it's just really interesting. I mean, these people are well-meaning. I used to go to this church. I'm still friends with this pastor. I probably consider myself still a Christian, even though I haven't gone in 4 or 5 years. These people are all well-meaning. I know people just care about other people. These are the folks that would, if you were genuinely in need, they're going to be there for you, without a moment's notice or hesitation. They've done a lot of good in the community. They honestly support. That's another thing Boise is kind of famous for. We've taken in a lot of refugees. We kind of somebody explained it to me. Boise's this refugee hub. And we're taking in just tons of refugees. So this church has done a lot to pair them with jobs, with support, with housing, whole 9 yards. So I don't want to discount the church at all. It's just, I bet it's a few vocal individuals that are kind of putting that on there. So anyhow, guys, wow, what an interesting conversation. I go from talking about Boise to people talking about demons and mental health, but this is the conversations you have as a therapist, as a social worker. These are things that get brought to your doorstep. I'm not going to keep the camera rolling a whole lot longer. Right now I'm driving down kind of the famous historic Hyde Park, which is just this kind of a yuppie home base. I'm sorry, my filter is off as I'm driving my Fiesta, accusing others of being yuppie. Just this little, so I'm talking about this small town vibe. This is where this community idea, community-minded living is over here in the north end of Boise. And it's wonderful. It's just so close. Everyone's so friendly down here. Everyone's so supportive down here. Really accepting of everybody. There's lots of parks. There's lots of just wonderful, just getting out and walking. I discussed how I like getting out and just walking around. We used to actually live down here, and it was wonderful just to come down here. There's lots of festivals or events. Basically community block parties. It was great. It's awesome living down here. And still, even though I'm living across town, I'm still 5 minutes away to come back down. So anyhow, if you guys have any questions, things like that, interesting, situations in the mental health field where you got put into, you having to give an answer to a question. I don't know. I hope that I would love to meet with individuals and talk with them that, think these kind of thoughts. So like to at least have a discussion. And that's another thing. That's another problem that I've seen a lot is, my friend and I were able to have this reasonable discussion about this without everyone being offended and triggered, having a meltdown, raging on Twitter, anything like that. And it seems like it's almost the norm now. Like, if you have, not so much my friend, but maybe if I was to sit down, I would love to sit down with this person who made this comment. Like, let me hear your reasoning. Where are you coming from? Did you have like a family experience? Like, what the hell happened? I'd like to talk to them and just have a discussion, even if they continue to maintain that, this is the devil's work. This is it. This is what happens. Psychosis. It's from the devil, entirely. I would still respect that person. I would still like to have a conversation. I wouldn't leave that discussion putting them down or calling them stupid or calling them uneducated or flaunting my master's degree over their face and telling them, I went to 8 years of school, I don't know way more. It's so stupid. It's so unproductive. That's how you just lose people. That's how you lose relationships and maybe an opportunity to maybe at least educate someone in the right sense. It's really been the norm. Especially I noticed that coming out of my local university. It was almost like there could only be one opinion to these matters. No matter how severe or far out, just letting someone express their, sometimes I think if people just talk, if they hear themselves speak, instead of just sitting on Facebook and typing up a status about how, maybe all Mexicans are absolutely evil and they're stealing my job and whole 9 yards. If you just let them talk, let them vent. Sometimes they realize how absolutely ridiculous that sounds sometimes. And you can at least have a conversation. If they don't feel like you're coming on the offensive, you're respecting them and you want to hear them and you're giving them the floor, you could have that discussion. It's when we just stomp people out, shut them down, insult them. I see a lot of it on Facebook. I see a lot of it on, from maybe my colleagues or people I went to school with, just insulting, putting down, discrediting all these people on the right and not letting a conversation take place. It's like we're never going to make any progress. It's just basically the way I picture it and the way my wife portrayed it, actually. Going back to a road rage incident I had in about 2012 where I was just road raging. I was freaking out at this guy that cut me off. Anyhow, she's like, it's like you two are both grown-ass men sitting in, two opposite sandboxes and complaining about, you threw poop in my sandbox and yelling at each other about it and nothing's ever getting done. And that's what I feel like. I feel like we're just taking turns throwing the cat turds at each other's sandbox. And obviously you don't want to have a conversation with somebody that did that. So anyhow, I know I've been ranting for way too long. Here I am driving down Harrison Boulevard. Just a beautiful, beautiful part of the town. I shouldn't put this video up because I feel like this highlights how nice Boise is. More people are going to move here. But just want to end on that. I'm not going to be talking too much longer, I promise. I just want to get some ramblings out, some random thoughts. Put it on YouTube and let people figure it out. And if you have concerns or questions about whatever, I'd be happy to answer them. Just put it in the comments. I'll get back to you guys. So thank you.